Smile, be, chat, join for networking.
Morning. My name's Todd from the Spaghetti Agency, and normally I teach people how to get found online. Usually I teach people stuff about Twitter and blogging, websites, but I'm not going to do that today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little story, and it's about a little boy. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool. This little boy was quite normal. He was one of three, and he was the eldest boy, which meant he was in charge whenever his parents left the house. Anyone an eldest child in the room? Yep, you know how that feels. It's always your fault when they get home. But he was quite normal. He went to school. In fact, what was unusual about when he went to school is during his secondary school, he didn't miss one day of school. Anyone ever done that? 100% attendance for 5 years of school?
Not even close.
I can tell, Jason. We don't want to know what you did at school. At the end of school, he got a certificate to say he had 100% attendance. He went on the stage of the assembly, none of this prom stuff like in nowadays. Have you seen the kids now? They have limousines and prom dresses. This little boy had a piece of paper to say, well done, you've come every single day. Also, he had a paper round. He started when he was 13. The very day his pocket money was stopped, and his mum marched him to the shop and said, now you're on your own. You've got to earn your own money. They say it's character building, doing a paper round in the snow in your t-shirt, and I'm sure it was. He did that paper round every single day for around 5 years. He was possibly the oldest paper boy during sixth form. But he turned up every day, at the same time every day, and he put in 100%, just like he did at school. This same boy, after school, so he gets his 100% attendance. The thing is, he's always done what he's always done, so he's always got what he's got, right? So he gets to the end of school and he thinks, well, now what? But luckily for him, the school also had a sixth form college. The same school. He could get there at the same time. He could do the same lessons. So he picked 3 A-levels: physical education, geography, and English literature. Now, unfortunately, A-level PE does not involve playing basketball all day. So he dropped that very quickly. It involves all sorts of technical stuff and muscles and skeletons. Wasn't really what he wanted to do. And the geography teacher was not as attractive as a GCSE geography teacher, and he suddenly realised why he liked geography so much. It was nothing to do with precipitation and mountains. But English A-levels was something that he did like. He found a real talent for writing, and he really liked poetry and Shakespeare, and he really enjoyed it. And as a bonus, the teacher was also attractive, so it kept him there. That little boy was me. Halfway through my A-levels, though, when I was 18, someone offered me a job for £100 a week. I remember my careers teacher saying, don't leave your A-levels for £100 a week. And I quote, he said, I wouldn't piss in the wind for £100 a week. I didn't know what that was. And £100 a week buys a lot of check shirts and CDs. So I quit. I took on this job, which just came to me. I didn't go out and get it. That's kind of what I did. Stuff just comes along, make the most of it. This job came along, and it was for my best mate's dad. Never do that. Go and work for your best mate's dad. Especially not my best mate's dad, who's now left the country, for other reasons. I don't know how long it was before the business folded and disappeared due to other exterior reasons and other things we won't go into. But then I was left with nothing. I'd worked all this time at school, got a 100% certificate, gone to college, found something I was really good at, and left. I tried to sit my A-level exams, but I failed it because I didn't do any of the reading. And then the job I'd left for £100 a week to buy shirts and CDs then disappeared. But it's okay, because something always comes along, right? You don't really have to craft your future. Something just happens. Stuff just comes along. And I was always good at picking out these opportunities and making them work for me. Someone said, hey, I'm about to leave my job at the local petrol station. If you go down there right now and talk to the manager, he'll basically give you the job. I've told him you're brilliant. I've told him you always work really, really hard. You'll always turn up, you'll never let him down. She was right. I went down there and I said, hey, you've got a job going. I understand she's leaving. Yeah, Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. It's the worst shift. But it's all I had. So I made the most of it. So I did the job. I started at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon. I did the whole thing. Now in those days, there was none of this 5 or 6 staff on ringing bells. No, you were in charge of 120,000 litres of fuel, a lottery machine and a shop. And you had the one key for the building. It was good fun though. I put 100% into that job, and the Sunday mornings was great because I had to put all the newspapers out, so it was just like being a paper boy again. I did that job for a long time, and I worked really hard. I turned up all the time, I put 100% of effort into it. And the guy in the shop, the guy at the petrol station, the manager, said, "Do you know what? I'm going to give you Monday to Friday. You can pick any shift you want." Brilliant. I didn't ask him for this, it just kind of happened. It just came along, and I thought, well, that's quite nice. I'll get 2.5 times as much money. In fact, I got 3 times because I carried on doing the Saturday job because I quite enjoyed the lottery and the chaos. And I can pick and choose the day, so I did. I did that for quite a long time. Because I put 100% worth of effort into it, because I worked really hard, and I built up a really good relationship with hundreds of shoppers and customers, they made me the manager as well. I didn't think, do you know what, one day I'm going to be the manager of this petrol station when I went for that job. All I did was turn up every day, give 100, and you can't give 120% by the way, 100%. And it just happened. One day someone said, "Do you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." So I did that job, and then another job came up in another petrol station. Someone said, "Hey, do you want to manage this petrol station?" For something awful like £140 a week, terrible money. And I thought, yeah, I'll do that. So I left the one job, went to this job. I want a career. I want a career of managing petrol stations. Great fun. Unfortunately, the petrol station I moved to had some staffing issues, i.e. most of them were thieving cards and using them on their shifts, stealing phone cards. Do you remember when you used to have to top up your mobile phone with a card? They were just nicking them, and the cigarettes and most of the money. I wasn't used to that sort of thing. Working in a petrol station in a leafy hollow of where my parents live in Balsall Common near Solihull, it was nice and nobody did terrible things. So it was a bit of a shock. I quit because I thought, I can't do this. And I'd worked 100% for what was probably 3.5, 4 years, and I left with nothing. And I went home with the last £1.20, just about got the train home, back to where I live with my mum and dad, back at square one. Luckily for me, something came along. The guy who was managing the petrol station where I used to work had heard that I'd quit. And he found my phone number from somewhere and said, "Hey, do you want to come and work in my petrol station?" I said, "Well, the one where I used to work?" He said, "Yeah, you can have the best shifts Monday to Friday. You can come work there." So I did. And I turned up every day and I gave 100%, and I really enjoyed it. And I used to chat to people. It was kind of like a little stage. Have you ever noticed in the petrol station it's slightly higher? And to me, it was like a stage. And I used to enjoy bantering with people, chatting to people. I've got a really good memory for number plates and numbers and cards, and I knew how people were going to pay, and they really quite liked this. Until one day I realised nothing else was coming along. And if I continued to keep doing the same thing, I'll continue to get the same thing. And when I realised that I was now 22, 23 years old, most of my friends had finished university and now were lawyers and accountants, and I was a shop assistant, I realised I ought to do something about it. So I wrote a letter to my boss saying, "I'm sorry, but I have to hand in my resignation, otherwise I will be here forever." And I posted it through his office door. And he was a bit upset, but it was one of those things. Now, I didn't have a plan, because I never planned for anything. Something just comes along, doesn't it? Always something just happens. The last shift, or the shift before the last shift, so the Friday night, Saturday was my last shift. The Friday night, I was doing my thing in the queue, chatting to people. And a guy came up, paid for his diesel for his transit van, and he said, "Hey, are you looking to earn some extra money?" Oh, bloody hell. I am. Here's the thing I've been waiting for. He said, "Do you drive?" I said, "Yeah." In the back of my head, I said, "For the last 2 weeks, I've been a driver. I just passed my test." He says, "Brilliant. I'll pick you up Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Okay, exchange numbers, done. So I quit my job on a Saturday. Tuesday, I got picked up with the most battered transit van you have ever seen. And that's what started my career as a van driver for 11 years. I really enjoyed the job, and I gave 100%. I turned up and did as much as possible. For a small family company, very difficult to work with, but great fun. And Phil, who was the guy that gave me the job, we worked together. We were like brothers, although he was about the right age to be my father. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. Sometime through that career as a van driver, I went to a stuffy wine dinner. I didn't want to go to the stuffy wine dinner, but I think my boss was ill, and I just happened to be given the opportunity to go. I said, "Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take this opportunity." And I went to this wine dinner, and it is the most traditional industry ever. If you've been in the wine industry, you know people, they are really stuck in their ways. It's all about earth and soils and mountains and the way the sun shines. It's not about technology. But there was one guy saying, do you know what? I'm smashing it on YouTube. I thought, oh my God, we're not even on Facebook. So when I got back from that meeting, from that wine dinner, I decided we are going to be on social media. And I found Twitter. It's kind of happened. I signed us up to Twitter, and I did the first thing most companies do when they join Twitter. I tried to sell stuff. Buy my wine. Here's some wine, do you want to buy it? How many people bought my wine?
Was it?
So I got bored. Kind of gave it up, really. And then I got back to it when they gave me a smartphone for the first time, the first iPhone, a 3GS, I think it was. And I started just taking pictures of things, selfies outside the Houses of Parliament when I was delivering. I used to have a hashtag called flamboyantly parked. Whenever I illegally parked the van, I would park it and take a picture of it with, of course, the signage on the side of it. It became synonymous with what I did. And people used to do their own flamboyantly parked and hashtag it and send it to me. It became a silly, stupid thing to do. People then started to notice me. And then I became the person to ask questions about Twitter. And then, just by accident, one night, don't picture the scene, but I was naked, using my phone, and I was putting my son to bed, and I was checking Twitter, and someone said, hey, do you know, we always chat, we always talk to each other, why don't we meet up? Do you want to do it, Todd? All right then, I'll do it. This opportunity just comes along, I'll do that. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I forget the time frame now, 90 people turned up to a tweet up, which is when people from Twitter meet in real life. And we had to close a restaurant. I went on the radio to say, please don't come. People were coming from London to come to this tweet up. Please don't come, it's full. We can't fit any more people in. We had a website and a logo, and a whole community built from a few conversations on Twitter, which is why Twitter's so brilliant. It was great. We did several of them. We raised thousands of pounds for the local ambulance. What I didn't realise what it did was it raised my profile within my community. And then people were starting to ask me, how do you do this? How does that work? How do you blog? How did you get this to happen? So I started teaching people how to use it. I didn't set out to teach people how to use it. Someone just said, could you teach me how to use it? And oh, they wanted to be taught how to use it. Why don't you run a workshop? Okay, I'll do that. I'll just take this opportunity and I'll go and do it. It was all going really well until my boss retired, about 9 years into my career. Now, I didn't realise, but when he retired, I did realise how important he was to me. And he'd become a serious father figure to me, and someone that I really respected, and we built a really strong bond together. The day I found out he was retiring, I was gutted. And the day I drove back from Cornwall with an empty van, without him, having just delivered him and his stuff to his new place, I was gutted. But I thought, do you know what? Something always happens. My boss has retired, I'm still here, I wonder what's going to come. But nothing came along. And it was 2 years I just resented being there because I was expecting something to happen. I was expecting a bigger company car, a better smartphone, although you can't get better than an iPhone. Just split the room. I met some amazing people when I was doing Warwick Tweet Up and Twitter and all these networking events. One of the people I met was called Jo, and some of you will know who I'm talking about. She didn't come to my first tweet up or my second tweet up, but I fell in love with her avatar. She was one sexy chick on Twitter. No one knew who she was. I was married at the time, so I did nothing about it. It was just an attractive picture on the internet. We've all been there. But I was stuck in this job. Nothing had come along. What am I going to do about it? I'm training people. I'm literally loading a van up at 4 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock. I'm sorting the warehouse out. I'm driving the van to the back of a pub, teaching people how to use Twitter for their business for 3 hours, getting back in the van and doing the deliveries. People are like, well, you should do this for a job. No, I'm just a van driver. That's what I do. I just drive a van. I'm not some guru or some social media expert. That's not what I do. I needed a kick up the arse. And those of you who know me will know I read this guy's book, which is Get Off Your Arse. And I read it in the spare room of my house because things had not quite gone the way they were planned in my marriage. And I thought, this resonates with me. This is something that I need to do, is get off my arse. Because I've been waiting my whole life for something to come along instead of getting up and going and getting it. I didn't quite get off my arse immediately after closing Brad's book, but it wasn't long after that on New Year's Eve 2012, I heard a phone call that changed everything forever. It was exactly midnight. I went upstairs. Things weren't great at home. But I overheard a conversation that my then wife was having to her friend, boasting about the things she'd been doing, which are not things you do when you're married to someone. That was my kick up the arse. That was the thing that I was waiting to happen. So I packed my bag, I went to my brother's house, I was drunk, but it was only a mile, don't judge me. And I stayed there for a few months. So now I have no real prospects in my career and no family life. And all I've got is a bit of social media stuff, a bit of fun going on. But where am I going? Just about 32, 33 at this point. I knew I needed to get out of my job, but I needed something to go and do. And everyone said, you should just do this social media thing because you're really, really good at it. I said, but it's just not a real career. It's not a proper job, is it? It's not something proper. And what I want to do is someone to come to me and say, can you come and work for me and do this social media stuff? But it didn't really ever happen. Finally, I got the guts to quit. And after 11 years, I had a couple of contracts come in. Bearing in mind, I'm still emailing them in between delivering wine. Never while I'm driving, obviously. Maybe a few times. And I got the guts to go and do it. I realised that I had no contract in my job. I'd been at 11 years. I had no pension or anything else. I didn't have a contract. So I gave them 2 weeks' notice. And I said yes to a few people and I left. The day before I left, I handed back the company car and the smartphone that had held me to that job. The thing I really thought I couldn't do without. I handed back and I cycled home without a mobile phone. I had nothing. Just like all the other times, I had nothing. The next day was my last day, and it was a gorgeous sunny day, and I'd driven to work my last day in Joe's car, and it's a convertible MX-5. When I left, bang on 5 o'clock, I handed the keys back, I put the roof down, I put my favourite music on. I left with nothing, but I left with everything at the same time. That night, 3.5 hours after I quit my job, I won an award for all the community stuff I'd done on social media in my town. And I stood up and I said, I really didn't expect this. And I thought, oh, what a fucking cliche. And I said, I quit my job today. Please hire me. And people did. They hired me. And then what? Monday morning, start your own business, in your underpants in your living room, yeah? But things happened. People employed us. Things went crazy. The company that we started, which was actually my partner's pretend business on the side on a sofa, proofreading a few things as and when, a little hobby if you like, outgrew what we were trying to do. So someone said you should have a better website. We went for a website meeting. The website company said, hey, you should rebrand your company. I didn't decide to rebrand it, it just kind of happened. But then I thought, actually, all these things have just kind of happened. But when you think about it, they didn't. I gave 100% at school and got noticed. I became the senior prefect. It gave me leadership qualities. I became the captain of the football team. That gave me leadership qualities and lots of really good friends. I decided to leave A-level English to go and do a job to earn check shirts and CDs. That was my decision. I decided to do it. I also decided to go for that petrol station job, which taught me a lot of things about cash handling and stuff, and I really, really enjoyed it. And if I hadn't been at that job, if I hadn't quit that job, when Phil came into the store and said, do you want to earn some extra money? I'd have said no. And I didn't have to say yes to him either. I took that decision, I went to that job. And then I gave 100% in that job. And then I signed up to Twitter and I made sure I gave 100% to that and helped as many people as possible. So actually when I think about it, I made all these decisions. I definitely decided to leave my house on New Year's Eve 2012, and I definitely decided that 2013 was the best year I've ever had, although this year is looking pretty good. You're all here today, sat in these chairs, because of a decision you made. No one has forced you or me to be here. Every single day we make decisions that set a path in our life. And it was only until a couple of years ago I thought that just happened. Obviously some things we can't change, but most of them we can with the right decisions. So every day, including today, you will have decisions, left or right, up or down, over there or not over there, yes or no. Make the right decision. Cheers.
Smile, be chat, join for networking.